honestly, like, I feel so much better. And so just having just this a little bit of a kick of more energy is nice. And my heartburn has gone way down. I don't have to take I still fuck with Tums every once in a while, but I don't have to take medicine for heartburn anymore, which is nice.
You can fuck with Tums. Just pop a couple here and there. A loose Tums now and again.
Now that's the only sugar I get. Fuck with those fruity Tums.
Yeah, baby, you got tropical going on.
I got berry flavor and tropical fruit. Yeah,
that's dessert now.
Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Not jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. Jokes in the gym. With Rudy Tyburczy.
What is up, my friends? We are jumping into it. I'm just clicking record and making an intro for my episode with Seth Milstein, my good friend Seth. Oh, it was actually a lot of fun to listen to. Sometimes when I get in the preparation mode for listening to these podcasts, doing the edits, it takes a lot of energy. You know what I mean? Like when you have to build up something in your head before doing it, that just takes a lot of time and energy and a lot of my juices. But then I find when I'm doing the thing, it's super duper juicy. And I love it. And it was no different today listening to my convo with Seth. We dig into it. We dig deep from the start. Seth is on a path of sobriety these days. He's making a podcast about it. It's a big part of his life. I'm super proud of him. And we get into them nitty gritty deets early on in the pod. And so if you are someone who needs to know that before you listen to the podcast, now you do. We deal with addiction and recovery and struggle in this episode, and topics that may be challenging for some folks. So just that you might want to know that. Or you might not give a flying rip. You might not give a crud. But either way, it sometimes is helpful to know stuff before you get into it, you know? Are you one of those people who likes to know what's going to happen before it happens? Like, do you do research before getting into stuff? Do you ask a lot of questions? Or do you just jump in, you know? I think that there's some value to both. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you want to know what's going on. Sometimes you want to have an idea of what to expect. And other times you just say, screw it, dog. I'm jumping in foot first, ankle first, elbows and shoulders first, and we're going to see what happens. And I like that too. You know, I started as an improviser. That was my initial background as a comedian. I just kind of went out for my college improv team, Absolute Improv, when I got back from studying abroad at university, and I went to an improv jam, and then I went to an open tryout, and I made the team. And I made a lot of my best friends ever from just jumping into it. And that was really powerful. That was me as like a 20-year-old kid, you know? Freaking half a life ago. And I think of my friends from back then. Kellen, Margie, Jana, Greg, Ian. So many wonderful people from back in the day. And I've gotten to have a couple of them on the podcast, and I hope to have more as well. And it was just such a wonderful part of my life. And I think starting as an improviser kind of helped guide me in some of my performative aspects. Because I do fly by the seat of my pants a lot. I am jumping around. Hi, Bubba. My girl's greeting us. She's saying hello. She's part of the intro today. And I think that there's something valuable about that. I think it really allows you to kind of explore what's happening in the moment. And for an audience, I think being in the moment is one of the most important things. So I'm super thankful for that improvisational background that I have. But I'm focused on stand-up now, and so I do incorporate some improv into stand-up. And this week, I was talking with Seth, actually, today. I'll be getting a guest set at the Olsen Run Comedy Club this weekend. Super stoked. And I'm also starting to reread this book, Mastering Stand-Up by Stephen Rosenfield. I really like this book. I've read it before. I enjoy it. I'm going to do a book report on it. Would you like a book report? I don't know, but I'm going to do it. And so what I think I'm actually going to do this week is like read the book, go through it, use some of the exercises to build a good 8-minute set, because what I do not have at the moment is an 8-minute set with me and my current hairstyle. And I got the long hair set that I send out to bookers, but I don't got the short hair set. So it's time to try to focus this week, get on a dialed in kind of practice regimen, go to mics a couple more times this week, really work on the craft of a set, like crafting a good set, and hopefully getting a good tape at the end of a week, because golly, tapes are important. And so I'm excited. It'll be a lot of fun. I think the show's with Ian Fidance. I don't know how to say his last name. Sorry, Ian. But it should be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to kind of have a little thing to work towards as I am ramping up for Oregon Country Fair in about a month. So that'll be exciting. I'm so stoked for Fair. Last year was totally joyous. And it was one of those things where I did kind of just jump in. I didn't quite know what to expect. I was going in without having ever been like a full-on participant of Fair. And for so many people in this community, it's like the biggest part of their life. And I love that. I get it. After going for the first time really last year, I get it. It felt like community. It felt like being a part of something. And that was awesome. We all brought separate gifts. We all brought separate attributes to the table. And it just felt like everybody was really working together to build something cool, fun, juicy, funky, weird, Oregon-y. And I'm glad that I got to be a part of it, and I am getting to be a part of it moving forward. I feel hella blessed, as they say. Don't they say that? Do they say hella blessed? I don't know. I'm so old and lame. But it's all good, because today our very fake sponsor is Friggity John's Old and Lame Cream. Have you ever been old and lame? Well, talk to Friggity John. He makes a cream for old and lame people. Will it make you less lame? Will it make you less old? Probably not, but it's for you. If Friggity John says it's gonna work, then you can believe it might. Because Friggity John does some things sometimes that work out, and other times, not so much. So if you're old and lame, call Friggity John and get Friggity John's Old and Lame Cream at FriggityJohnsOldandLameCream.com. Once again, that's FriggityJohnsOldandLameCream.com. Don't forget, this is totally fake. But this podcast, fortunately, is not fake. It's real AF. It's in your ear holes. It's in your eyeballs. It's in your nostrils. Can you smell us today? Can you smell us today? Because I hope you can. I'm working on smell-o-vision. That's one of our next ones. Next week, tune in. Maybe you'll get some smell-o-vision. Maybe you'll get some more great freaking interviews. But for now, I hope you really enjoy this interview with me and my good friend, Seth Milstein.
It's going. Hello, everyone. What is up? Thank you for coming out and putting on your headphones today. It's such a big deal that you did that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm here. I'm excited to be here with my guest. He's my good friend here in Eugene. He's a comedy stalwart. He's hilarious. He has a podcast that comes out every Thursday called Hope Fiends with Seth M.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to tell you his last name in a moment. Put your hands together for Seth Milstein.
What a production.
I know. Yeah, you guys can't see the smoke and flashies and mirrors. Yeah.
It's amazing. Over here, it's wild.
It's bananas. Yeah, I love the streamers.
Yeah, I'm blinded from pyrotechnics.
Oh, no, that's committing to the bit, Seth.
Yeah, well, that's how I do.
That's the kind of comedian you are.
Yeah.
Have you seen the new Dumb and Dumber 2 T.O.?
Yeah, the one with them.
Yeah, with them
because they did
again.
A prequel and that was not great, and then they did a sequel, also not great.
I've watched 20 minutes of it twice before I've gone to bed. And it's fine. It's totally fine for that,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
It's like new Dumb and Dumber jokes.
Yeah.
Right? And the first joke is a bit that Harry has played on Lloyd for 20 years.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
I don't remember it. I did see it. I remember watching it when it first came on like a streaming or a video or whatever. I don't remember. It was like during that time when
right.
That was transferring. We were transferring from technologies.
It's not. You're probably right that it's not good, but I feel like Dumb and Dumber is ultimately rewatchable.
Sure.
It's still funny. It's silly and ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
And the new one feels a lot of the same. A lot like that to me. Just like it's the same kind of jokes. He was in a mental hospital for 20 years. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that. But it's revealed in the first 4 minutes.
So
I
do
that's
remember
committing
that
to the bit.
vaguely. Yeah. It's I mean, Dumb and Dumber, the original, I still watch. I love I'm at the point where I never have time to watch a whole movie. So like when I choose a movie to watch, it is for the first 20 minutes because I'm going to fall asleep during that time. So I'm like, what starts great?
Well, you will get a lot of sleep if you watch Dune 2, because that's out on it now.
I saw that in the movie theater, and I was doing a couple of like those, where you start nodding.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
No, but I think it's beautiful, and then there's that one great monologue at the end. I mean, there was some moments that I thought were really great, but meh.
Yeah, kind of similar to Oppenheimer to me in that sense that it was just like long and an epic and a well-made story, but it's just like kind of too much.
Yeah, somebody asked me what I thought of Oppenheimer, and I said it's a very well done movie about the most boring part of an awful thing that happened.
I mean, it is, right? Yeah. It's like, I never thought I would cry from watching a bomb explode, but here we are in 2023 or 4 or whatever year. Yeah. Well, you're also making a podcast about movies. Has that begun? Have you started dropping those either?
We haven't dropped those. No, it's so much just to edit this one, and we're my roommate and I are like doing this kind of production company. We're just helping each other with each other's shows that we do. And
you and Nathan Hart, the funny, talented,
Nathan Hart,
skilled Nathan Hart.
He's super funny. I love him a lot. We look like the before and after photos of each other.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the thing is, and I don't know who's which.
Who's telling the other one the message from the future? I don't know. Yeah. One of you're in a time loop to help each other somehow.
Yeah. He actually just shaved and it ruined everything.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, we're back in the 30s.
Yeah. No, but so we're co-producing a couple of shows, and then we do this podcast because Nathan has never seen any important movie. He's seen like 6 Marvel movies.
Yeah.
like
Tommy Boy.
The worst Star Wars movies. Only the prequels or whatever. So when he moved in, it was like I kept being like, oh, from High Fidelity, and he's like, what's High Fidelity? And I'm like,
jeez.
So the movie is that I show him movies that are important to me. And we do like the podcast, we do this little preamble where he reads the Wikipedia plot description of the movie. And then I say why, like me remembering the first time I saw it and why I loved it so much. And then we watch it, and then we come back and we talk about it for an hour.
Nice.
And so we've recorded a few of them, but we haven't gone through because I have this other podcast that I'm doing solo, and that takes up a lot of time too. So
yeah, these things do take some time, don't they?
Yeah. It's and yours have been like amazing. Like I've been watching them, and I'm just like, with fucking video too. It makes me mad because I'm just like just trying to get literally words up. And this is like fun because everyone in the world has experienced this version of a conversation now, and it's kind of cool and fun to watch. And you've been having amazing guests. It's been really cool to watch.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point as far as like we've all been doing this now, and so like it's totally normal. It feels totally normal for the most part right now. So I guess that is good. That does make it feel like, oh, we can all do this. Well, the reason there's even video, I use Riverside. Shout out to Riverside. It's pretty good. But I pay a monthly fee, and it does so much of the work for me.
Right,
Because I'm
right.
just making it myself. It's
Yeah.
been invaluable. It's totally worth whatever I pay on a monthly basis, the 20 some bucks, just for like helping with clips and having social stuff available, like just
Mhm.
getting it out there. It's super, and it's just like a fun way to kind of like spend some time and resources. I've really been like enjoying the conversation so far. How have you been finding that part of the process?
That part's the best part. Like, I've streamlined the process of being able, like, just getting the mics up and getting the conversation going, and then most of the work is in the editing afterwards. Because I build like like I throw a monologue in, and it was such a dumb and ambitious way to start it. I was like, I'm going to record the monologue every day, the day that I drop the podcast.
And
so
you don't realize how much work that takes until you're doing it.
It's always 1:30 in the morning. I have to work the next day.
Yeah.
It's like such a nightmare. But like I'm getting better at every time. Like the first time I did it, it was 5 in the morning, and when I like finally got the thing up, and now it's like I can get, if I start doing it by like 10 or 11, I can get it up by midnight or what.
So are you a night? Do you consider yourself a night owl even these days?
I'm an all of the hours owl. I don't sleep very well, and now I'm sober, so I don't have like an easy way to get to sleep. It used to be easy to, like, if I need 6 hours sleep, I can do a dab or whatever, and that's not an option now. And so like I've gotten a lot into meditation and breathing. But I'm not good at it yet, so
it's hard to breathe.
I do Tai Chi every day now.
Ooh.
And but it's just it's basically like 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes in the morning. I do like 36 breath repetitions, and with body movement and everything, and it's just, for me, it's a way to like focus. Like my joke is that it's just the way that I don't kill everybody at work.
There you go. That's great.
Yeah, day job at this point is just doing the one thing that I don't want to that I'm not super stoked about doing. And most of the things that I do in my life, I'm pretty excited about. And then it's like, I used to be excited about my job, but it's not. It's just, I work for a t-shirt company.
Right. You made this hat.
I did make that hat. I didn't personally make that hat. A nice lady named Jen made that hat.
Oh, thanks, Jen.
I designed it and ordered it.
Ooh. Well, yeah, somebody complimented it the other day at my day job and was like, "Who made that? Where'd you get that hat?" I was like, "Well, it's one of a kind." My friend, who is a hat scientist, shout out to Chaz, t-shirt scientist.
Yeah, Chaz came up with that moniker,
and so I was like, and then I gave him the name of your business. I was like, but they don't really do single prints.
Yeah,
like, whatever. And
he
I was
can
like,
get 12 if he wants 12.
Yeah, I was like, you can get a bunch.
Yeah.
So the Tai Chi in the morning, is that?
Yeah.
How does it? How do you feel afterwards? You say, okay, you're not gonna,
yeah, I feel like really grounded and relaxed, and my mood is much better. It's because different people do it different ways. I kind of do this like visualization of like pushing negative. When I'm exhaling negative vibes, negative thoughts. I kind of visualize it as like I'm exhaling like black smoke, like toxic black smoke.
Oh,
and then
I love
I'm
it.
inhaling like light.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a silly thing, but it does help me kind of like feel like I'm getting all the toxic shit out of my soul, my vibes.
Good.
And then it's the movement is kind of like it's like a light squat, and so with like while moving my arms up and stuff, and so yeah. And it's so funny because I started doing it, and then like Facebook Memories brought up a joke from like 5 years ago where I said, "Do I have to actually learn how to do Tai Chi, or can I just move like a slow wizard?" And I was like, "I'm moving like a slow wizard."
Yeah, what's the verdict? I bet it's just move like a slow wizard, and it works just the same.
Yeah. No, a guy who has been practicing Tai Chi for like 21 years. He's been to China. He's like learned from the family that invented it or whatever. He gave me this simple breath exercise. And he's like, for what you're doing and what you want, just like a little focus for the day. That's what you need right now.
You also talked about how sleep is a challenge for you. Have you considered adding one 5 to 10 minute, series at the end of the day?
I do. I have done that, and it really doesn't do much for the sleep. But I do. Box breathing, and like there's a couple of different combos that I do, because there's one that's like a 7-3-4 type thing, and there's just different like counts of like you count this many when you inhale, you hold it for this many, and then you count this many to exhale. And there are different ones that are supposed to help with relaxation or focus. But box breathing is like the most popular one. That's 4-4-4.
Yeah, the fours. I do the fours. I like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, the great thing about box breathing is you can do it literally anytime in any situation, and it just like helps almost immediately. Is in my experience, or are you like, this breathing shit doesn't do a thing?
Well, like I'm very pragmatic about a lot of things, and so for me, I'm like, there will be a point where I'm doing it where I'm like, oh, this is just a thing that I'm using to focus and distract me from all the thoughts in my head, which are the things that are actually keeping me awake. And then I'll go into that loop for a little while, and then I'll be like, hey, knock it off. And then I'll get back into the breathing. But I mean, it's all a process. That's part of like learning how to meditate and
totally
like, use it in a constructive and positive way.
Yeah, because I feel like I have such a hard time quieting all those voices, and I don't do enough meditation, and I don't spend enough time just necessarily quiet and silent. I'm always like fiddling around or doing yard work or cleaning up. You can't tell that I do those things all the time because it's a mess everywhere. But it's like so hard for me to get my thoughts just as my own, I feel like. Do you have any challenges or like ways that you approach that, like trying to silence all those voices?
I mean, it is I'm very aware of the breathing stuff, and that's part of it. And so with the Tai Chi, it's you're using breathing as a distracting, and you're using the motion, so you're focusing on like all of these different elements and kind of bringing them all together as one. But like when I'm just meditating, I do a meditation meeting. I go to a group meditation every Monday, and it's the meditation is 10 minutes. It's we sit around in a circle and we're just quiet for 10 minutes, and everybody kind of does their own style or whatever. And I fucking love it, man. It is, like I look forward. I'll get to like it's every Monday, and I'll get to Saturday and be like, oh, I need that fucking 10 minutes, man. And I think doing it in a group kind of keeps you honest about it, because I'll get competitive about that shit and be like, oh, I'm gonna meditate harder than everyone else here.
I'm gonna be so quiet.
I'm gonna think about nothing the whole time.
I ain't gonna think about shit.
But it's and so like I am getting slowly better and better about quieting my brain. Like the place that we do that, there's a clock that ticks very loudly, and it becomes, and so like, and I just incorporate that into my whole thing, and then like some people you'll hear, somebody's like clear their throat, or somebody comes in late or whatever, and then like part of my meditation is not to let any of that affect, and like so it's all just like part of this flow, and because that's what it is where you're doing that with your thoughts, you're doing that with your brain, and so it's important to like be able to and we do comedy, and
Right.
you have to be able to be in the moment on stage and flow with what's happening in the room. And so it's like all of those different elements are kind of like what meditation is for me.
Right.
It's like not pushing every thought out of your head and being like stringent about it, but like when the thought comes in, just allow it and then kind of slide it through.
Let it float around and do
Yeah.
whatever it's going to do. It's the part of meditation that I appreciate is trying to just stay away from judgment of the thoughts. Just letting the thoughts come in and then not beating myself up or worrying about how to deal with them. That's the challenge, But when you're doing it, it feels good. It feels great.
Yeah.
You know what might be fun? I was just thinking about this when you said you do it in a group. To do that with comedians, like a group of comedians trying to shut the fuck up for 5 minutes.
That would piss me off. That's right. I'd be like, stop doing bits.
Yeah. And then we do an open mic after. Like, if we get 10 comics in a room, we meditate for 10 minutes, and then each of us do 5 minutes. Like, that could be a pretty fun exercise. And just, like, totally improvised or, like, nothing set, just stuff that came from that. I don't know. That's totally a thought that came to me while I was meditating while listening to you talk about meditation.
Yeah, I wasn't very engaging about that. That's not meditating. You were just falling asleep.
Yeah. No, we were talking about sleeping in movies. My gauge for a good action movie is how many times did I fall asleep? If it's at least once, I was like, pretty good. That was pretty good action. Yeah. I like that action movie. I didn't need to see
what are you supposed to do during those dialogue scenes? Like, it's exposition. Just get to the next explosion.
Yeah, let's go to the set pieces, y'all.
Yeah.
I want to see some sandworms.
Yeah.
So, you're starting your own podcast. You mentioned it, obviously, about sobriety.
Yeah.
And that's now such a huge part of your life. I'm so proud of you for that, because when we met, you were not a sobriety guy.
No, I sure wasn't.
No. What was there something that made you make that change specifically, or was it just an overall feeling? What kind of triggered that for you?
There was like a series of moments, and like, they say moment of clarity or whatever. Just like there was a series of things that happened, and not necessarily significant events in my life. I had one. I used to do a lot of cocaine, and I did not like the guy that I was becoming. I was, in certain parts of my life, I tried to maintain and be a very specific type of person, and with like a person with integrity. But whenever it came to my addiction, I became very manipulative. I hung out with people that I didn't like and didn't want to hang out with. I mean, I was in a room with a guy who just kept using hate speech, but he was a dealer and he liked me, and he kept giving me free drugs, and I was like, damn it, I fucking hate this. And I called him out, and in front of a bunch of people, and I made him feel like shit about it. And I should have left. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be spending time with those people, and or that person specifically. And then I had a thing where I thought I was ODing, and I was like laying down, and my heart was like beating really, really fast, and I was like uncomfortably high. And I thought about my children, and I was like, I thought about like how embarrassing it would be if I OD'd, and that's the story that they had to tell for the rest of their lives. And that was a really big moment for me. There was a moment where we had like 3 fentanyl deaths in the same week, just not in the comedy scene, but just in the bar scene in Eugene. And like, I knew 2 of the people. We were not close. stolen valor of being like really close to these people, but it's still like it was a really big deal. And then a good friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, took me aside at a bar. Like I walked into Lucky's, and for people who've never been to Lucky's, it's like the bar is like a really narrow, tight area, and then it opens up into this bigger space. And she was like waiting for me at the end of that, and like ambushed me. And I walked in, and she like grabbed me, and she was like, "Seth, we have kids. You got to stop doing that because this is too scary." And I was like, "Okay." Just bought 2 8 balls, and I know that those are clean.
Yeah.
And it's December.
Yeah.
So for New Year's, I'll do a resolution, and I did. And I did. That was when I quit. And then there was this bigger thing that was happening where we were doing a lot of big shows, you and I, and it was really like fun. And but it was, I mean, for a long time, I've been kind of looked at as like the guy in our scene that does a lot of the work or whatever. And so, like in that community, comedy community, and in the in my private life with my son and my daughter, like just trying I just realized I had a lot of people looking up to me. I didn't feel like setting a good example. And I knew that I could do better. And like the whole time that I was using, I was like really, I really had like, I had all these values, like I did want my scene to be a positive place for like, marginalized communities. And I wanted, but I couldn't always trust myself to be like, like I was, like I said, I was manipulating certain people for drugs, because I had gotten to the point where I had like close to like at least a half a gram a day to a gram a day habit, and I'm not a rich dude, so I was not making like ethically sound choices.
You were feeling it in a variety of ways.
Yeah, it was, and so I made the choice to quit cocaine 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago now. It was January 2nd of 2020, and then and I drank and smoked weed and did that real hard for a couple of years after that, and then I got really depressed. My mom passed away. I had 3 different friends died by suicide in the pandemic, and all of those people were people using drugs, and one of them died from drugs. The other 2 were like psychosis because of drug use and depression. And I have depression, and so then I started getting really, really depressed, and shit started getting dark. And I one big part of my story is that you and I over a year ago now decided that was it 2023 we were going to take 2 months off of drinking because you were doing your special. Rudy Tyburczy lives in Eugene, and and so we quit drinking. And then the night of that special taping, I asked you before the thing. I said, "Are you going to drink tonight?" And you said, "I think I'm going to have a shot in a beer."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, cool! I'll have a shot in a beer with you."
Yeah.
And then you had a shot in a beer, and you went home. And then I had a shot in a beer, and then I had 8 more beers and had sex with my ex-girlfriend. Who's a lovely person, and I don't regret that sex.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like instantly slipped into addict behavior. And then I drank like that every night for the next 2 months or so. And then one night I was out with some friends, and there was nothing significant that happened. I just felt uncomfortable. Like I was hanging out with a new friend, and I was excited to be hanging out with them, and like was socially awkward and anxious because I was really drunk and high, and I was like, I think that tomorrow I need to take a break from drinking again, and then I took a break for a couple of months, and then I was depressed again, and which always happens when I quit it. And
it's a helpful tool.
Yeah. It's numb. I'm real good at numbing.
Yeah.
So then I had a friend, our friend Sam Miller, had always recommended I would always call him when I was depressed from sobriety. And I would be like, "What do I do?" And he'd be like, "Go to a meeting." And I'd be like, "No, meetings are not for me."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Well, fuck it, I'll try a meeting." Or whatever. And then I went, and and then it was like a therapy that I didn't know I needed.
Yeah. Did it resonate immediately?
Yeah, I mean, I cried on the way home from that meeting. The first meeting I went to, it took everything that I had in me to not break out in that meeting. But it was like a bunch of strangers and a couple of people I recognized. This is a small town, and I knew them from various different places. And then I was like, okay. So I had a light week that week, and I was like, I'm gonna go to a different meeting every day just to see what it's like and see if this is gonna stick or not. And then there was one of the fellowships that I attended, I stuck with, and then the other one I still go to every once in a while if I can't find a meeting of the other. But
because you still have a few, and I mean, like, you have a few that you go to that are like a huge part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I have, like when you commit to like being in recovery and being in a program, you have what's called a home group.
Okay.
Which is like the one that you try to go to every week.
Okay.
And then, like the meditation meeting is it is a 12-step meeting. The 11th step, by the way, is meditating.
Oh, do you know all the steps? Are they like, you got the steps numbered 1 through 12?
No. I could repeat you. I could give you the gist of a lot.
You know what?
No, I don't know. I don't memorize or anything. I have some of the readings memorized, but because you hear them so.
That could be your next hour. You could make the 12 steps of comedy, or something. You could do like the 12 steps. Every step along the way would be so full of material and things that you have thoughts and that you care about.
Let me get through the steps first.
Yeah, okay.
I just finished step 1. My sponsor and I are doing this upcoming Thursday. We're doing step 2.
So they're like long-term steps. They like take a while to work through.
It depends on the person. Some people get through them really quick, but like with the fellowship that I'll just say it. I'm in NA, Narcotics Anonymous, and that one has a workbook, and so like when you
love homework, don't you?
I fucking hate it so much, and I'm dyslexic, so it's very difficult, and it's very emotional work too.
Yeah.
So it's like,
extra. Don't want to do this.
Like I have this notebook that's like my NA notebook.
Yeah,
and I would I do a step. I do a question, and then I get to like the next question, and it'll be like everything. Like that question will be like how have you hurt people because of your addiction? And then I'll start crying because I'll think about it, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not ready to do that question right now. And that's one of like 60 questions for that step, Yeah. And so then every time I think about, I'm like, okay, I have some time. I should do some step work, and I'll look at this fucking notebook, and I'll just be like, fucker.
Sounds like you have some work to do on that.
Oh yeah, big time. It's all a process.
Yeah.
Progress, not perfection.
Exactly. Because that's what it is. It's about showing up on your bad days as well as your good days, because you're not going to get through the shit if you only show up when you feel good, at least in my estimation.
Right. And, and the thing that you learn, like, I thought that recovery was about recovering from drug use and addiction, which it is, but a huge part of that is recovering from the person that you were that made you start getting into that shit, and also the person that you became while you were being a selfish fucking addict the entire time, So it's it really, like, I said this in a meeting recently. I said, like, sometimes I come to meetings because they help me stay sober, and sometimes I come because I just want to see my friends, and sometimes I come because I'm having such a rough time, and I know that when I go to a meeting, every single person in that room is trying to be a better person.
Yeah.
And that gives me hope.
I love that.
And like, some days just like reading the news, you're just like, fuck.
This sucks.
Everything sucks. And then to go to a place where, like, everybody in their own way and at their own pace is trying to be a better person. It's like fucking overwhelming. It's very powerful.
I mean, quite honestly, that's almost exactly how I feel about the gym. That's one of the things I love about working at the Y and being a member of, like, health and fitness communities, because it's like, guess what? You're doing the freaking work right now. So many people are not. So many people, you could just as easily be sitting at home, and a lot of times it's a good choice, not all the time. But you're here. You're doing something. I don't care what you're doing. I don't care for how long you're doing it, but you got out of your boxers and you're now boxing.
Yeah.
In the nude. So go home and put your boxers on before you come box. You freaking psycho.
I recently have started the new part of my journey is health, and just eating better and exercising a little bit every day. And I do, like, there is this satisfaction that I get out of it, and but it's funny because the, like, physical stuff is the one thing I'm not competitive about. So, like, that's the thing that every, like, competition is built on. It's physical prowess. But I'm just like, no, I'm just gonna I'm gonna do 20 of this thing and 10 of this thing, because that's what my body can do. And little by little, I had, like, a episode, a physical thing where I told our mutual doctor friend about it. He said it sounds like pre-diabetes to me.
It sounds like what?
Pre-diabetes to me.
Oh.
And so I spent, a week being, like, building a lot of anxiety by reading stuff on the internet. And I completely changed my diet. And down to artificial sugars anymore.
Yeah.
And part of sobriety, a lot of people do that. A lot of people who get sober end up becoming diabetic because your body craves these sugars.
Switch to sugar.
And so, and that was like, if I had a good week where I didn't, I spent the whole week not drinking, and I was hanging out with people at bars the whole time. Yeah. So I deserve a pint of ice cream.
Yep.
And I was doing that sometimes, like, 2 or 3 times a week. And
I would do it 2 or 3 times a day when I would take time off from booze. I would be like, ice cream twice a day. I get it for lunch and dinner.
Well, and and, like, it was also it's also like a parenting tool. Like, it's it's like, oh, I'm a weekend dad, so it's like, this is a quick way to win some favor and affection. And so, like, cutting that shit out is like, now I have to be engaging.
Yeah.
And I have to be like, I have to be better at just being a person in my son's life. And, but it's been really great honestly, like I feel so much better.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't get a lot of sleep, and so just having just this little bit of a kick of more energy is nice. My heartburn has gone way down. I don't have to take. I still fuck with Tums every once in a while, but I don't have to take medicine for heartburn anymore. Which
you
is
can
nice.
Fuck with Tums. Just pop a couple here and there. A loose Tums hit now and again.
Now that's the only sugar I get. Fuck with those fruity Tums.
Yeah, baby, you got tropical going on.
I got berry flavor and tropical fruit. Yeah,
that's dessert now.
Yeah, but I mean, I eat a salad every day, at least one. And I don't eat anything fried or breaded or anything like that. I don't carbs, but so no potatoes are like my fucking favorite thing in the world because
potatoes are not bad for you. Potatoes are fine. You like boil. I don't know. Do you boil potatoes? Fucking put it in the microwave. Do something with it that doesn't involve a ton of grease. Potatoes are healthy.
I like a baked potato, and I was a fry guy. I loved French fries. You know, that was
my god, they're kind of the best thing alive.
That's my cheat food. It was like recently, my son just was like, "Can we get something that's easy?" And I was like, "Yeah, what do you want?" Like, I can do a cheat. I hadn't had a cheat like in 2 weeks, and I was like, "What do you want?" He's like, "Dave's hot chicken." Like, fuck yeah. And I was eating fries, and it tasted like fucking a lobster.
Oh, baby. Oh my gosh. I love those bites when you get to dip into something you haven't for a while. I'm a man of treats. I love treats, and it feels good. Like, I think if you are super strict all the time, you'll go a little crazy, and it'll be counter helpful.
Well, that's our doctor friend last night was like, he goes 80-20, man.
Yep, 80-20. Like, big time.
I was like, what about, I was like, I feel like I've been doing like 80-20 the other way for so long that I need to do 95-5 for a while. But I could just keep myself busy. You know, that was the thing. I was vegan for a while, like probably 10 years ago, and I lost all this weight. And I felt really good because I was like I wasn't just like eating Tostitos or whatever. Like I was doing it right and eating a lot of vegetables and fruit and stuff like that. And my friend who was overweight, he was like my closest friend at the time. He said, how do you do it? Like, because you clearly had the emotional attachment to food. How did you just let go of that? And I was like, I just started investing emotionally in other things in my life. I had started a podcast at that time, totally different podcast, and I was just, my son was like getting to be an interesting age where he was engaging, he wasn't just a baby anymore, and so that was really fun. And I walked a lot. I did a lot of walking to lots of media, music, podcasts and stuff, and I started writing reviews of music and podcasts.
Oh,
and just for me, because it was a creative outlet. And then I started writing for Savage Henry Magazine right around that time. So it was like, you just find other ways to get that dopamine.
Yeah. And I mean, it seems like you're doing better, like significantly better than you were when you were using substances and stuff like that. I asked, if you want me to cut this out, I can, but I asked your son what differences he noticed in you. And he said that you're like more able to talk about your feelings and different things like that. Do you find that's the case?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a very like my father was like a we don't fuck with feelings type of guy. And I joke about this. Like my parents were never into like alcohol or drugs or anything. Both of them were addicted to food and rage. And my dad loved throwing punching a hole through a door, and he wasn't like that
Rage Against the Machine, right? You're talking, yeah,
yeah, yeah. He just got so upset with the system.
Yeah.
And the system was my mom's kvetching. No, he was never abusive physically. Like, he would spank us, which was kind of par for the course at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But he never like would lash out in rage to me or my mom. But he would scream. I mean, my entire childhood, like the backdrop to it was them yelling in the next room.
Yeah,
and so yeah, I like. Obviously I had some anger shit at different points in my life, and that's all stuff that I had to deal with. And like, so my thing was, I didn't want to become my father. I didn't want to scare the shit out of my kids. Right. So I just smoked weed all the time. And that evened me out, so I didn't have to. And so now it's like, the funny thing is, like, you think when you drink or you do drugs that you're making the feelings go away. Mm-hmm. And you are not at all. You are just, you're storing them.
You're putting them in a cocktail.
Yeah, and then at some point, what happens is, I think a lot of people, that those bins that you're storing those emotions in overflow because you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
But like I had never, I just didn't process any of the shit for my entire life,
Yeah.
And so like, when I started going to meetings and doing recovery, it was like, okay, now I'm finally processing my father's death, which happened when I was 12. And I'm processing my mother's death, which happened like 2 years ago. And I'm processing all of these emotions that I had when I was like, being a dad. And like, I'm like trying to be a better dad than my dad was, but like, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm being a good one. Slightly better isn't always good.
It's the right direction.
Sure, yeah. Progress, not perfection. But yeah, it's so, yeah, I am much more open with my kids now. My daughter, I probably shouldn't talk about her personal business, but she recently had a breakup, and she was hanging out more, with me, which, like, I didn't know if we would have a good relationship as grown-ups and stuff,
Yeah.
And
she's a woman, right?
Yeah, she's 23 years old, and I think she sees me now as like a safe person to have an open dialogue with. And
that's awesome. Like, that's huge. Really,
yeah, I mean, it's I could cry about it right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, my son and I have a pretty open emotional dialogue, and then and I have a great relationship with both kids right now.
That's so great. How old were you when you were first a father?
She was 4 when I moved in with her mother, and she had not had a dad at that point, and so I kind of stepped into that role, which was definitely scary, and I made some mistakes, but I was I didn't I always like was very conscious of, because I had a lot of stepdads, like my mom. My mom fell in love easily.
Yeah,
and so
that's good.
And in
some ways,
sure. But she did the best she could, and but I had a lot of guys floating in and out of my life, and so I didn't want to be like a shitty one,
You've never even mentioned the term stepdad. You know what I mean when talking about your daughter, and so you've always wanted to inhabit that role.
Mm-hmm. I've felt like her dad for a long time. Like, her real dad kind of started hanging out when she was like I think he wanted to make contact when she was like 10, and then he actually like kind of jumped in for a while when she was like a late teen. And his thing was like, I have money, so I'll just buy you a cashmere sweater.
Yeah.
She was like, we raised her well, and she kind of saw that as like transparent.
Yeah.
Kind of dumb. But he's and I want her to have a good relationship with him, because I'm sure that's something she wants. But
if she wants, it's her choice.
Yeah, I'm always here. I just want to.
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever relationship she needs to have with me.
So looking back on fatherhood, what advice would you give early father Seth? What would you say to when you jumped in then? What do you wish you knew?
I would patience, man. It is so much about patience, and it's never going to be about you, and you can't make it about you. Like that was my issue, is that I kept like wanting my wife to love me more than she loved her kid. And that's insane.
That's a big ask. But some couples are like that, and some are not.
Yeah, and I think that's what I saw. You know, like my mom wanted a partner more than she wanted, and I'm not. This is not a knock on her parenting, but she was a codependent person, and she wanted to be in love, and then at a certain point after my father died, I think I was, you know, I was like something that was like a hurdle for her to find that. And I don't think she did that intentionally, but I think that was the problem. And so, like, I think I had just picked up that behavior. And I was like, but you're supposed to fall in love with me and ignore your kid. That's how this works. And then it was, you know, looking back, I don't want that for anybody. You know?
Right. Yeah. That's not the way we want to go.
No. And so, yeah, I like, you know, like I said, it's you learn so much about yourself without using, and I'm doing work on all that shit now. It's like
totally.
That's what the fucking steps are all about. It's like just owning the mistakes that you've made, and then trying to learn from that behavior and correct it and try to be better.
Yeah.
They say a lot. It's about looking at your character defects and setting those aside, and then trying to live in spiritual principles. So you have like
putting aside your spiritual defects,
character defects, and living in spiritual principles. You know,
you've mentioned this to me before, and it seems like it's hard and it makes you feel bad. Not you specifically.
No, I mean it does. I think it's important to, when you're doing self-examination. I mean, that's what therapy is. Yeah. Therapy is like, you know, I mean, I don't like the culture of therapy now because it's so heavily monetized. It's like a lot of times a therapist, you're just paying somebody to pat you on the back and tell you that you're right. but if you're really doing the work, I think a good therapist will tell you how you're fucking up and like where your character defects are.
Yeah.
And then so that you can work on those things. Because like hopefully the goal of a person getting into therapy, you know, like we have these little things that were like, oh, I'm sad, so I want to feel better, you know, and that's a selfish thing, really, if you think about it. But once you start examining why you're sad, and then you see what part you play in that, and obviously there's things that other people do too, but it's like, you know, like, yeah, I have issues with my mom and I have issues with my dad, and they're dead. Yeah. I'm never going to have that conversation. You know,
gotta do the work. Like,
I got to fucking forgive them, and then like take where I am now and move forward. And that's some heavy shit, but at the same time, it's like, if that makes me a better dad and a better comic and a better show producer and a better partner and, you know, a better employee or manager or whatever, you know, like it makes me a better person in my life. Then why don't I want to do that work? You know?
Yeah. No, that's beautifully put.
There are days where it's fucking hard and I don't want to do the work, and guess what? I don't.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't.
But every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, I got to do something.
Yeah, I got to do something.
Sometimes it's just lifting those weights, and sometimes it's eating a salad, and sometimes it's doing 1 to 3 questions out of this workbook, you know. And,
totally.
And sometimes it's just going to a meeting, you know.
Yeah, because it seems like you are as busy as a lot of people that I know in many ways. Like, do you feel like that? Do you feel like you're always like doing stuff, or you're trying to catch up, or do you feel like it's pretty low key and slow? Like, where is that for you?
No, I feel it is overwhelming and nonstop. Like we were talking today, I forgot that this was today. I thought it was
Yeah,
tomorrow,
yeah,
and so I was like, oh, I have like 4 hours before I have to do anything. This is
yeah.
amazing. And then of course I decided to do, edit a reel and put it on social media.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think that I would be able to keep up with my life if I was still using as much as I was.
So,
Like this, you know, me helping with the comedy club came at a really good time in my life for that to be a thing, because
uh,
I'm the most focused, and I also think that I'm like acting. I think about things in terms of how ethical and
uh-huh.
I'm being with stuff like that, and I really like the comedy was when I started was just it was like and I think it is for a lot of people. It's selfish, and it's not.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way
It's
necessarily,
not.
but it's a thing that is motivated by our egos.
Hmm.
And I love doing stand up. Like I
Right.
really love I now I think the way I describe it is I just like being vulnerable on stage, and
Oh,
because like I do talk about sobriety and my trauma and stuff like that, and I just try to make that funny to
totally.
help anybody else that might be curious about that shit. That's what my whole
Mm-hmm.
podcast is about. It's like to remove the stigma of recovery. But now when I think about like everything I'm involved in the comedy community, it's about the community. It's not just
Mm.
about me. It's about
Mm-hmm.
like I want to, I want all the people who have been working really hard to to be able to be rewarded by that, and then I want the people who have had lack of focus until we got a comedy club to have this new thing to work toward. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be this place where like all of the work that has happened over the past 15 years has been validated.
Mm-hmm.
And so getting to be a part of that, I mean, it could have gone a lot of different ways. And I was really excited that they included me, and they're letting me include everyone else, because it's like when I see what's on like their plate, like they didn't have time to learn an entire comedy community and figure
Mm-hmm.
out who had put it, like get the history and figure out well, who's been here for 8 years working their ass
Mm-hmm.
off, and like and also like who's funny, like we did an open mic and everybody kind of thought that was going to be that like the owner was going to sit in the back and take notes on who was the funny ones and who wasn't. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody was trying to kill. The owner was in the back cooking everyone's food
Yeah.
because it's a business and it's hard. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, he kind of hired me to know who's funny and to watch everybody and make sure that you guys are like, that the funny people are getting booked for the spots that make sense for them.
Yeah. And it's a tall task to be
It's
the guy, the man, the
yeah.
whoever in a scene. How do you feel like it's like changed the scene? Do you feel like it's brought a positive influx of emotions, or like enthusiasm for comedy, either among comedians or the audience in general?
I think I think the audience is really enthusiastic about it. Like
Yeah.
it's really really fun to see people coming out. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we have an 80-seat room right now, and we just opened the big room. We're doing that show tonight in the big room. Just 140 seats right now
Mm.
until we remodel it, and it's like really cool to see the comedy community come out, like people that enjoy comedy come
Mm.
out. I everything that has happened in the community of comics, I kind of expected, and I'm mitigating all that. I mean, it's just going to happen that some people get hurt feelings and stuff like that. I'm trying to find a way to include everybody. But it's like, when you have a comedy community in a small town, there's a lot of people who just do it as kind of a hobby, and there's a lot of people who take it seriously. And sometimes the people who do it as a hobby are funnier than people who take it seriously. And that sucks, but it happens, and so it's a matter of like honoring the work that people are putting in, and honoring and saying, hey, look, you've been showing up really, really high to open mics for 2 years, and it's not, there are plenty of people who get high before they get on stage every time, and it's funny, but it's like, this is a social thing for you. And this is just a way that you come out to see your friends, and it gives you an excuse to drink or whatever.
That's fine.
And that's fine. But you don't deserve the same
the shots.
The same thing as somebody who's literally been grinding all the mics and filming all their sets and putting up their clips and reels, and they have a podcast and they're funny, and every time that we hire them, they don't look at their notes and they kill it, and they fucking, there are obvious ways. And it's like, I'm pretty informal about when I book locals, obviously, because I know everybody, and I am at all the mics, and I do see people get better and progress and all that stuff. And so it's like, I get to this point where it's like, the other day I was talking to Nathan, and I said, it's like, I just want to sit everyone down and tell them what they need to do to get booked, to tell them that they have to have a good video that's good quality audio, good quality, and they have to be killing the entire time, and then they have to have a bio and a good headshot, and like that's like the professional level of a club. You can't be looking at your notes, and you have to put the mic stand behind you, and he goes, I think you're talking about teaching comedy class. And I was like, oh no.
But at the same time, I feel like those things are important for people to know who are like trying to get on shows and trying to do stuff. It's like, no, here's 5 things that you can do right now that are not even part of like going to a club or a mic or a show tonight. Here's 5 things you can do at this moment that'll help you move towards those things. And people just want to get those things immediately. Yeah.
And it's I would love to say that this is just like, this is just like the 80s where all you got to do is crush it in front of the right guy, and then you have a career, and it's not. There's so much. Social media is a huge part of being a good comic, and it sucks because, like I see people getting booked to do comedy clubs. Oh shit! Oh, hold on a sec. Sorry. My phone just started ringing through my computer. Did you hear all that?
I didn't hear any of it.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
well, that's good for the podcast.
Yeah, great. You just said, "Oh shit," when you talked about booking people. You're like, "Oh no, I forgot to book Seinfeld."
The whole screen went off.
Oh,
like you went away, and then I just so and so's calling, and then I heard a phone ring. Okay, so no. But like,
not the 80s.
You see these people getting booked that have 6 reels that all have 150,000 views, but that's less than 6 minutes of content.
It's a different thing.
A comedy club booked them for an hour.
Yeah,
and guess what? That hour is going to suck because that dude's been doing comedy for 2 years.
All right.
And he put together a good 10 minutes and broke it down into clips properly. And, so it's like, and I know people who crush 20-minute sets and can do, a half hour to an hour. And they don't have their fucking social media game tight, It's like that kind of sucks. And like, you've always been like a really big inspiration to me because you're a guy that films every one of your sets, and you're prolific about putting clips up. And especially since you started doing the podcast, that was like another thing that when I started mine, I was like, okay, if I could just be fucking half as good as Rudy is about this part of it. But
it's just about doing it consistently. Like, I get so little traction. Honestly, like, my engagement is minuscule. I have
mine too for the podcast. But also the podcast is so serious, and it's such a departure from like what I know, the type of stuff I'm normally trying to put out. But it's like, okay, well, I like, this is really just for like 40 addicts who go to meetings and stuff.
But my belief is, and it has to be this, is that it'll pay off in some form or fashion, and not necessarily like monetarily or whatever, but it's like, I enjoy the conversations. I'm enjoying trying to do the work myself, because that's what we don't have anyone, even if you do an awesome 20 minutes at the club, or even if you get that great set, there's still so much work to be done. A lot of people are putting the cart before the horse with that content and stuff. Like, like you said, you got a great 10 minutes or a great 15 minutes, and you clip it up and you put it out there. Awesome. But I've always focused kind of it's like, okay, can I do it when I'm in the driver's seat? When I'm on a stage, when I'm doing a performance, can I do what I've been hired to do? That's step one. And it's sad that that's not even the most important thing to get the job sometimes.
Yeah, it is a bummer because I just did a night where I featured for somebody at the club, and it was I filmed both my sets, and they were great. I had a good time. The audience had a good time, and then I'm like watching them and breaking them down, and like, this joke, okay, this is a complete joke, and it's only this long, and it has a really good pop at the end. And I'm like, I hate fucking having to do in 20 minutes before I started looking at this thing, I had a really good 20 minutes set, and it felt good. And now I'm dissecting it, and I'm like, well, actually, this set was only 57% good.
I got 11 minutes. But that's what you have to do if you want to up your game. You have to be honest with yourself, because nobody, you don't know who else is like, nobody else is going to tell you that exactly. You don't have a manager. It's like, who is going to do that work except for you? And if you are like just fluffing stuff up, and I fluff my sets up all the time. It's like, I do crowd work. I am try to be silly and present and stuff like that. I think we all should be. But if you're like trying to like get up to a certain level or echelon, it's like, you have to work on your tightness.
It's like really, and that doing club sets is like been like so overwhelming, instrumental in proving that, because I see people, every once in a while you got to do a booking because it's like a political thing more than this guy's funny or whatever. And I was asked by a headliner a while back to put up a guy who I don't think is that great, to be honest, just isn't super funny, or isn't consistently funny. I'll say that, because I've seen them be super funny, but it's just like not, and they weren't. And I was talking to the club owner, and I was like, do you want me to bump this guy from tomorrow night? And he was like, and then the headliner stepped in, who asked me to book him. He goes, don't worry about it. He goes, and the club owner said, no, I would worry if the headliner sucks, but the headliner is going to kill it. And the feature is going to kill it. So this host is like, we'll get through it, and that's what happened. And it was, and I love that, because I didn't want to take a booking away from somebody. Like I was excited to be there, but it's like, man, it's like, if you would, and it was another thing where it's like the guy who showed up kind of fucked up, and it's like, and I don't want to be like sober guy who's like, no, you can't. But it's like, that's something that I noticed before, because I never went on stage. I mean, I've definitely gone on, with a beer in my hand or
For
whatever,
sure.
but I never went up drunk
Like
and
going
hammered.
to an actual gig where you're like way under the influence is like immediate no. And if I was booking someone in that position, I'm like, I'm probably not gonna take more than one more chance on you.
Yeah. You and I remember we would stand at the back of the room during a couple of different um, produced showcases at various venues, and where the guy producing it, who was also the host, was hammered.
Yeah,
we would just talk shit. Like, what the fuck did you think you were doing? Why'd you put? You're paying people to be here.
Yeah,
You're asking people money to be here. And some people, I don't know. You see them go up on stage, and that they're fucked up, but they don't. You can't tell on stage, and that's. I mean, if you can pull that off, that's a great magic trick. But
if you can push play,
if I can tell by your slurred speech and the fact that you tripped on the stairs walking up to the stage,
it's ugly.
Then bumped yourself in the mouth with the mic while you're taking out of the stand. I'm bummed. I'm really bummed.
It's sad. I kind of feel the same way, like when I watch someone drunk or under the influence up there, as when someone just bombs totally. It's like I feel all of that like vicariously from them. And maybe it's just because I've been a performer and I know what it's like on stage to bomb or not have your whole arsenal with you, but it's like, it's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, like when I see somebody just eat shit. Like, dude, I was hosting the club mic for a while. We did that for like a couple of weeks or whatever, and it was so fun to do. But my set at the beginning was always brutal because nobody was like into it. Everybody was still getting drinks. It was at 8:00. The club had just opened at 7:30, and so nobody had time to get like really
loosened up.
And everyone in the room is tight because they're going on stage and they're nervous about their sets. So it was like really hard. All those sets were really brutal.
Yeah.
And there were times where I'd be on stage and I'd feel compassion for the audience. Like I'd be like, man, I'm so bummed for you. You have to see me do so badly right now. And then it was always like halfway through the mic, I'd be riffing in between acts and everybody's loosened. It's fun. And it was like that's when I would like actually be putting the good jokes out there,
Right. But because by that point you've built a rapport with the audience yourself as a host, and so like you can comment on the night throughout. It's like it's a big job to be a host. People don't give it the respect it deserves, in my opinion, but it can also just set such a great tone for the whole room, even if the show is less than ideal.
Well, and like I love hosting Slice Mic. That's my favorite mic that I've ever done, and that's like when I go up at the beginning of the night, it's so fun. Like usually it's not a real chore to get people into it, but that room was so tight, and I think it was that energy of like everybody's there for a purpose,
right?
And it's 70% comics and 30% audience. They're not. They're just not ready. They're not ready to hear my musings on Israel.
Your new 3.5 minutes.
But hey, I wrote a joke about matzah, guys. What's up?
But that's every host. That's the beginning of every show.
Sure,
I'm getting a lot more physical on stage. I'm just like leaning into the whole physicality, everything, because it's part of me. It's part of what I do, and I lunge around and I do weird things with my legs because it's funny and it's another tool, and when you're a host, you have to pump up, you got to put the laughing gas in the room somehow. And sometimes it's just like silliness, whatever you got, and commenting on the room, because your job is to comment on the room as the host, because everybody who's going up there, they'll make their one or two opening jokes about whatever's happening now. But it's like they're trying to work on stuff. So as a host, you have to set the table for them to be able to like have a meal at all and feel satisfied. And that's good for everybody. But most of the time people run up, not most of the time, but oftentimes hosts will go up there with like, oh shit, this is going to be tough, or this is going to be a slog. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
you got to show them how this is not going to be a slog.
Yeah. I have one mic that I host every Thursday, and like my bit in that is that I'm not into being there. But I go so over the top with it that it's like clear that it's a bit. And this guy went up. He went up first, and he was like a dude from Eugene, and he started riffing with my son who was in the room,
and he didn't know it was your son.
He didn't know it was my son. And my son was wearing a Snoop Dogg hat. He goes, "Hey, Snoop Dogg, are you a comic?" He looks up and he goes, "No." Or he said, "Are you a new comic?" And he goes, "No." And he goes, "Oh, are you an old dog?" He goes, "No." And he goes, "You don't do comedy?" And he's like, "No." And he goes, "You should, man. You can come up here and be funny." Because, and then he looks over at me and goes, "Did you see the host? That guy wants to put a gun in his mouth when he gets out." And all of the comics are laughing so hard because they know what the relationship is, and this guy didn't know. And then I went up and I was like, "Hey, Henry, you can just come up here and be not funny, just like that guy was." It was so fun though. It's like, but yeah, that's exactly the vibe that I'm throwing out at that particular mic. Like, at Slice, I take it seriously, and I just kind of want to be a comedian and do comedy. And then that mic, it's like part of the bit is that it's always like 12 people or whatever. It's kind of mellow. And,
my new thing for Mondays is like, okay, I'm trying. This is my fourth podcast I've recorded this week. So it's like I was behind, and on Monday I recorded, and then Tuesday I released. But since then I've recorded 3 more, so I have a couple weeks that'll be like less painful to get out on time, or less stressful. And so it's like, okay, moving forward, one of my little carrots is like, if I finish recording, if I finish all the editing and the posting and the podcast stuff for Tuesday on Monday before 7 or 8, then I get to go to the Slice. So that's like a carrot, and I haven't reached it yet. But with all this work I've done ahead of time, I'm like, okay, I think I'll be able to get some more Slices in, because I do miss Slice, and I have such a blast there.
Do you work your day job on them?
Mondays I often don't.
Okay, cool. So that's like a good day where you can kind of power through it.
Exactly. Yeah. So that. But for me, everything just
Slice is
takes
only
so much
good
time.
6 months out of the year.
And we're getting to those 6 months.
Outdoor.
Yeah. It's like starting to be awesome right now.
Yeah.
So it's
great. We had the last couple of weeks where the thing where it was nice during the day, and then nighttime hit, and it got really chilly.
Yeah.
So next week I think it'll be like the beginning of the good season.
Nice.
But we always get a good turnout. I mean, even like in the dead of winter, some people still hang out.
People are still going out. Yeah, when it's like dark and wet, and there's just us and the grapes.
Dude, we did that mic once, and I watched snowfall.
Yeah.
While I was on stage. It was the most surreal shit I've ever seen. It was quite beautiful, but that was the night that I flipped out on everybody, and I was like, I want to go home. Why are you here?
It's snowing. Stop this. Not funny. You're just heckling the comics.
My deal, I was heckling the audience. My deal was that I was gonna. It's an outdoor mic, so the first week that nobody except comics showed up, I was gonna shelf it until it got nice again, and people kept showing up. And we just did our 3rd year anniversary.
Nice.
And there was 2 weeks where we closed because of one because of a ice storm, and then 1 week because of a party that they threw there.
Fair.
And then we did a couple inside because it was too cold to do it outside. But most of the time we do it, and people still show up, and it's crazy that they do. Yeah. But it's one of my favorite spaces I've ever been. I love it so much. There's such good energy there.
Slice rocks. I love it.
Yeah. Cool.
as we kind of start to wind down, I do want to hear about your current workout routine because you share with me regularly kind of what you're doing and what you're up to. So what does that kind of look like, and how does it impact your days and your comedy?
Well, I started when I got that scare about prediabetes. I was like, along with this this change in my diet, I should start lifting a little or doing some exercise stuff. So when I do the Tai Chi in the morning now, I wake up a little bit earlier, and I have 2 25-pound weights, and I usually do 20 curls with those. I do 10, and then I have 8-pound weights, and I do lateral lifts.
Some lateral raises, nice.
Yep, 8-pound weights, and then I'll do 20 of those, and then I'll do another 10 of the curls with the 25s, and then I was doing where I would take the 2 8s and I put them behind my head.
Do some tricep extensions.
Tricep extensions.
Yeah.
And now I just take one of the 25.
Oh, yeah, baby.
And so I'll hold it tight with one hand and put the other hand to restrain it. And I do 10 of those, and then I switch hands.
Nice.
And then I do 10 of those.
Yeah.
And then I do chalice squats.
Nice.
And I take one of the 25s, and I just do slow, deep squats all the way.
Also known as a goblet squat, one of my favorite exercises. Yeah, sure. I like the chalice too, though. You can drink from that as well.
Yeah. I thought that you said chalice, but maybe I
said goblet, like a thing you drink from, like, because that's what it's called.
That's probably what I.
And
I
so
just did
you just were using your thesaurus.
Because I said that to my partner. She likes working out a lot, and she was like, "Yeah, I call them goblets, but whatever." And I was like, "I think Rudy calls them chalice." And that was I just made that up.
You can do chalice squats if you want. I'm totally on board.
Listen, I was a big fan of Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. I love that chalice at the end.
Love a good chalice. Yeah.
And then, the squats are, that's what our doctor friend, you both recommended that the squats are life,
Totally.
So I used to do, and it's like I'm learning more and more about exercise every day. So I used to try to just do them as fast as I could, because to me, it was just like a thing that I was doing before I'd get out the door to work.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, it's all about like feeling it.
Feeling the muscle,
so try to do it a lot slower. And then recently I quit smoking cigarettes again.
Oh, nice! Hell yeah!
For the 40th time.
There you go. This will be the one.
Yeah, I'm over 100 hours now. So.
Oh, hell yeah!
And then so what I've been doing is when I get like a really, really intense craving for a cigarette, I try to do a 2-minute plank.
A 2-minute what?
Plank.
Oh, plank, yes.
Yeah.
I thought you said mic. I'm like, we have a 2-minute mic? You just tell jokes to nobody for 2 minutes?
I go out on my balcony.
Yeah.
I tell them to all the college students in my area.
Yeah.
College students and methods.
We're definitely not in recovery.
Yeah. No. Active addiction.
Yeah.
But no, I try to do a 2-minute plank. And because when you do a plank to like the limit that your body will let you do one, the last thing you want to do right after that is smoke a cigarette.
Yep.
And then I chew a lot of toothpaste.
Totally. Yeah, just do something physical. 30 seconds of like, I do incline push-ups on a bench or on a table or whatever, or like 30 seconds of like squats or something like this, just to kind of get the blood flowing. Drink a big glass of water, that kind of stuff. And it's like cheesy and lame and bullshitty, and you might do it and be annoyed, but it's like, it's better than going back on your word that you made to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this whole thing of like just shifting all of these, desires. So, it's like now it's like, I mean, like literally a year and a half ago, I was just like right now on a Saturday, I would be stoned. I'd probably be complaining about a thing that wasn't real, like that, like a perception that I have of an interaction I had with somebody, and I'd be like waiting and biding my time to get drunk, and I'd be playing a video game or something.
Right. But now you're doing stuff.
Yeah, I do a lot of stuff, and yeah. So again, it's about kind of like filling these emotional voids that I would normally get from food or alcohol or drugs, and filling them with other things that make me feel good, but
totally
much healthier ways.
I love that. And I love that you'll like just call me up randomly or talk to me at a mic or whatever about that kind of stuff. I'm always happy to hear how you or people are trying to take steps in the direction that they think is right.
I walked up to our doctor friend Thursday night. I walked up to him and I said I was eating. I had a charcuterie.
Nice.
And so I was eating a thing. It was like a piece of bread with a slice of apple and a slice of cheese on it, and some membrillo, which I've come to really enjoy.
Cool.
And I said, I took a bite and I said, "This is the least healthy thing I've eaten." So, he just looked at me and goes, "I love our little chickens."
Have a burger on me.
Yeah, it's I like having people in my life that it's like for a long time I didn't utilize having friends who were sober and actually in their emotions, and having friends that meditate, and having friends that take care of their bodies, and so now it's like I feel like I still hang out with a lot of people who are not taking care of themselves and not dealing with their shit, and I love them too. But it is nice to like have full storied friendships with my community.
Right.
I can actually like relate to everything.
Yeah. No, it's huge when you kind of take those layers off of like haziness. It's like you're just looking. You kind of described life or like going through challenges to me once as like going through a fog. When you're like in a rough spot, you're in a fog and you're just like trying to figure it all out, and like moving stuff out of the way, and you don't know what's in front of you. But I think eventually, as you start to do more work and feel better, it just becomes less foggy and you can see paths a lot more clearly. And so I keep that in mind.
I used to say that about comedy because like you get to these like plateaus in comedy where you're like I just don't know like what getting better looks like from here, and you're kind of like looking around and everything's kind of like blurry and murky, and you kind of like step through, like you step out of the valley and the fog dissipates and you're like, oh, okay,
it can be nice.
So I'm doing that with life too.
Exactly. And kind of finishing on that comedy note, like what would you have told your earlier comedy self to kind of reduce the amount of fogginess in hopes of seeing more clearly on your path?
I mean, if it was just about comedy, I would say to be self-aware as much as possible.
Okay.
Because on my podcast, I just had Sam Miller, and we talked about that. He kind of was like, I think to be a good comic, you have to be really aware of who you are and how you're perceived on stage. And he alluded to me not being that before I got sober. Before I was like actually in recovery, which is true, very true. But I like wrote jokes that I thought were funny, but that were not always true to who I am. And now it's like I think if you can see yourself, if you can see yourself the way that the audience perceives you the moment you walk on stage, you'll have so much of an easier time writing jokes that they can. But that's not necessarily what comedy is about. Sometimes comedy is just about doing the thing that you do, and and I
that you think
always
is
loved,
funny.
yeah, I always liked writing stories about my life, and then a big part of comedy for me is trying to make the worst parts of my life funny for other people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like really motivating for me. So,
Right.
like, yeah, I would say that's what I would tell myself, is to be more self-aware. But you know, like, my advice in general in comedy is like, be true to yourself.
Be true to yourself.
Yeah, because you can't have expectations in comedy because from a career, because it's not you know, like, if you're trying to be like, do what I'm doing, and you're trying to get a Nate Bargatze career out of it, you're going to be very disappointed because that's not, he's not writing jokes to heal the world. You know, he's writing the shortest path to a laugh.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful too, and that's great, but it's like not. it's two completely different worlds, and you can't, you know, like, you can't expect love from violence.
You're not close to SNL right now? You're not about to host the Snoll? Oh, lame.
Not even close.
Why'd I let you on the podcast?
Because you wanted a feature spot at the club. No, because we're old friends, I hope.
Yeah. Yes. No, it's great to hear you talk about your growth, you know, over the years, and what you're doing for yourself and the people around you, because that's really important. You have to start with yourself. You talked a bit about selfishness today, and I think that it gets a bad rap because you have to take care of yourself first.
Yeah. No, I think in recovery and in a lot of different settings where we talked about emotions and stuff, it is, you know, it's often said, you know, like, you get to put on your oxygen mask to be able to help the person next to you or whatever.
Right.
I think that's important. I think that the bad rap of selfishness is like when you get so deep into your addiction that everything is about you, you know.
Right.
Like, when I went to my first meeting, I told Sam this. Everybody's story was I kept finding chunks of my psychosis and my shit in other people's stories, and there was a brief moment where I was like, oh, Sam knew I was coming to this meeting. He probably told all the NA people. and I told Sam that, and he goes, oh, that's addicts thinking, to think that you're so self-involved that, like, I'm gonna fucking call a bunch of people I don't know.
They're punking me. Sam Miller's punking me at NA, at my first NA. How could he do that? I thought we were friends, Sam.
But that's like, that is what addiction is. Addiction is like, your whole fucking life and thinking is on how to get more of this thing that you or that you think that you need, and then like your thinking around that is all like, everybody's either out to get you, or you know, you have to fucking get you need to fuck people over to get what you want. And it's all this like really, really selfish behavior, and that's the type of selfish that I think deserves a bad rap. And then the type of selfish where you're actually taking care of yourself so that you can be better in the world is totally valid.
I love that.
I think about, because we ran a bunch of shows together, just comedy shows, which I love doing. It was such a fun
blast,
part of
such
my
a great
life.
time.
And but I think about how heavily I was in addiction at that time. Like, there were, you know, I would show up at the show early, and I would like help set up chairs or do whatever we needed to do, and hang our poster or whatever, and then I would go and do our set. We would always perform together, and
which was
the
so
moment
fun.
that was over, I was like, okay, and I would immediately dip into the bathroom and do a bump of coke, and then I'd go outside and smoke a cigarette, and get high and drink 3 beers.
You were
and then
flying high.
Yeah, and then at the end of the show, we had to break everything down or do whatever we had to do, and I was always like, just like, okay, I have to maintain until this part's over, and as soon as this is over, then I go all out.
Yeah,
as crazy as I can.
Yeah,
and you know, I think I was doing it well enough that not a lot of people knew how fucked up I was at that time. But
so good job, but also not.
but yeah, I think back and I was like, I mean, we sold out a lot of those shows, and they were really fun, and a lot of people had a good time. So I don't know how much better I could have done.
Yeah,
I could have. I know I could have. You know, with a little bit more focus,
but I mean, you could have done a lot better in your sobriety or whatever. But
yeah,
it's
I
also
think my relationships with people would have been a lot better.
Yeah. So and but you've taken that look. You've taken that look, and you're starting and continuing to make a lot of those steps that are valuable for you and the family and your loved ones. So good on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. I mean, for me, it's just about like always, you know, everything I do in my life, I have an option of doing the right thing or doing like the something selfish or manipulative or whatever. And it's just like being able to make the right choice every time.
The decisions never stop, buddy.
Yeah.
They just keep coming. They just keep coming.
Thousands.
And I'm glad to get to hear about your decisions every so often. It's awesome. And so
no, you've always been somebody when I was at some of the worst parts of my addiction and some of the best triumphs of my life. You've always been somebody that I've loved having conversations with, because it's always been really real and like we can talk about the feelings. And I've not always felt like I could be that vulnerable with a lot of people. So,
well,
love you, Benny.
I love you too, Seth, and feel free to get emotional or vulnerable whenever you want with me. Ever got a call or chat? I'm around, big dog. Heck yeah. Seth, if people want to follow you, find more info about you online, how can they do that?
Oh yeah, I am Seth Mills, SETHMILS, 1L, on social media, on Instagram, and then I have a TikTok that I post videos on occasionally.
Oh yeah, sometimes
if
I
you want to follow that, it's Satchmo Steam.
Satchmo Steam?
Yeah, that's one time a teacher or a principal for my school called my mom, and she's like, "We have to talk about your son Satchmo." And she said, "What?" She goes, "Isn't that your son's name, Satchmo Steam?" She said, "No, it's Seth Milstein, like a person's name would be." But I love Satchmo Steam, so yeah, that's my TikTok, and then everything else I think is Seth Mills.
I love it. Well, if you want to see Satchmo Steam, come to Eugene and go to a comedy show, and you are highly likely to find him. Find out more about him on his podcast, Hope Fiends. Follow Seth Mills. He's lighting it up. Go to Olsen Run Comedy. He'll be there too. He's all over the board and here in Eugene. Seth, thank you so much for taking the time to chat and being so open and honest with me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a delight. I'm honored. You have like a really you've had a lot of really great guests, some friends and some people that I look up to. So
awesome.
It's, awesome. Yeah.
You're another great guest, and someone will listen to this and be like, "Oh man, remember that time Rudy Tyburczy and Seth Milstein talked on the record? It was epic."
All right. I love you, dude. I'll talk to you soon.
I love you too. We'll be in touch, and ciao for now, everybody. Bye, Seth.
All right, bye.